An original.
From Story Studio Network.
Welcome to the Fatigue Fixer podcast. Have you ever wondered why you and most of the women you know seem tired so much of the time? Well, this is the podcast where we explore why. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Vedboncoeur. I'm a naturopathic doctor, hockey and baseball mom, bookworm, and nerd at heart who's fascinated by the state of modern women's health and well-being. I've had the privilege of treating thousands of women in my practice over the past 14 years, and hearing your stories has taught me an important lesson. Women are incredibly strong, resilient, and self-aware. And yet, too many of us are struggling to show up fully in our lives because we're tired and unwell. I want you to have the energy you need to share your unique gifts with the world because we are in desperate need of more female leadership. So join me for conversations that will help you feel less alone, more informed about all the things that might be draining your energy, and inspired to fix your fatigue and wake up every morning feeling rested and excited for the day ahead. I can't wait to share today's episode with you. So let's get into it. I'm so glad you're here today because I have a special episode lined up for you. I am here with two of my besties who also happen to be incredibly amazing naturopathic doctors. And today we are going to get into things that we are tired of hearing and conversations that we are tired of having, but that we are going to continue to show up and have because they're important conversations. And so we're just going to get right into it today because I'm so excited to share these amazing women. Both of them have actually been on the podcast before, but we've never done all three of us together. So I really think you're going to enjoy our conversation. We are going to do things a bit differently because reading bios, I always thought, is incredibly boring. So we're actually going to introduce each other because I always think it's interesting to hear how other people describe you. So my guest today is Dr. Michelle Peris. Michelle is a visionary. And I say that because she saw something, I think, long before a lot of other people saw it, which was the power of putting women together in a circle. And yes, women have been doing this forever, but I think she was one of the first people in the medical space and specifically in the naturopathic space to do this. And she's been doing it for how many years now, Michelle?
8.
8 years through her amazing program, The Wild Collective. And having been someone who delivered The Wild Collective for a few years, working with Michelle and just being friends with her really helped me realize the power of community and, again, the magic that happens when we put women together. And I think that's what I love so much about our friendship is that we have built this incredibly powerful friendship between the three of us. That's also been going on for many, many years. I also love that Michelle is a very deep thinker. Her and I often have differing viewpoints on a lot of different things. And I think instead of seeing that as a flaw or like a kink in our friendship, I think we both see that as a big strength because we are both open and willing to hearing each other's perspectives and we respect each other enough to try to see the other person's perspective. And I think we've both helped each other maybe like move a little bit on different issues. And I value that so much. Michelle is so devoted to her family. I admire that about you so much. She's hilarious. And I'm hoping we'll get to see part of that today. And then she is also the owner of the Poppy Clinic, which is a clinic in Burlington, but serving people from all over Ontario. So welcome, Michelle, to the Fatigue Fixer. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, friend. And I think our diversity of thinking is my favorite part about our relationship. So I just want to say thank you for that because there's not a lot of spaces where you can do that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I am introducing Dr. Leigha Saunders, and I am riffing, so hopefully this is hilarious. No, let me just tell you about how special Dr. Leigha Saunders is to me. Dr. Leigha is one of the most creative thinkers I've ever met. She is the epitome of learning from her own challenges and bringing that forward to her patients. Her mindset is unparalleled. I have the awesome opportunity of supporting a lot of her patients, and I get to hear how valuable she is to her world. She is one of the smartest, most articulate women I've ever met. I am honored to know her. What's been really cool is to see her practice evolve to offering all kinds of things, but now to be specifically supporting patients in fixing their fatigue from an iron infusion perspective. It has been life-changing. I get to hear a lot of the benefits that she's supporting women. She is an innovator and finds new ways to bring medicine forward to the masses. And I just couldn't be more honored to be her friend. She's someone who feels immensely and is willing to let herself be vulnerable, especially with us. She's the reason we have some of the most potent conversations, sometimes even at 6 or 7 a.m., because her brain is fired up nice and early. She's also the reason I go to bed early. And like I said, being able to see a lot of the other side of how she's supported her patients, how many patients she's helped resolve their sleep concerns. And for women, this is a massive issue. And for her to single-handedly be taking that on, teaching clinicians and inspiring and empower women all over Ontario is pretty amazing. So without further ado, I welcome my beautiful friend, Dr. Leigha Saunders.
Wow. Thank you so much. I feel like I want to start every day like this.
We should.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, I hope everyone listening, I hope you have friends who talk about you like this. And if you don't, I would encourage you to make it a top priority, because this is what real friendship can look like. Go ahead, Leigha.
I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Sarah. Sarah and I met by chance at a kind of random conference in 2015, and we had a very short interaction, and I don't know how, but of course the universe always knows best, and brought us together in more ways than one over the years. And I really also am honored to be connected to you and call you a friend. I really feel like you are the glue. I feel like you are so courageous, and I know you are so courageous. And that's why we love connecting with you. And whenever we have a question or want guidance and want clarity, I often feel like you are the one that's like, okay, guys, this is what is going on. This is the way it needs to be. This is how you can think about this, or what I want you to, or how I want you to think about it. And so for me, that always represents how bold you are and how fearless and how committed you are and consistent you are in showing up for yourself and for your patients and for your community. And people feel that and know that. And that's why I feel like you need no introduction, especially because we are on your podcast and of course going to share it on ours. But there is such a sense of community and magnetism, and you draw in such incredible people for showing up and having conversations that we don't always find easy. And I think that's what is such a special gift of yours, Sarah, is to show up and have the conversation and to say the hard thing, even if your voice shakes, and to really live that out in your personal life too. And to show up with us. And we've all had weekends. I think we all have officially had weekends now where it's like, I'm the one crying all weekend. Michelle's been the one crying 100%. All weekend. Sarah has been the one crying all weekend. And I never have felt judged or lesser than, or like either of you are tired of me, although I have given you full permission and welcomed you calling me on my shit. But that's the value of honest, open, transparent conversations where we can have a difference of opinion, or we can see something for another person and be able to say it out loud and communicate it in a very loving way. And so I admire that in you, Sarah, because even though it might take you a while to make a decision,
yes,
you make it when you know. And I think that is really courageous. And I admire that and admire you for opening up all these conversations and helping women take back their energy, because when women feel well, we can change the world, as cliche as that sounds.
It's so true. Thank you for that. And I think part of why I'm so excited for this episode is we are kind of giving our listeners a little peek behind the curtain, right? These are conversations that we are having when the three of us get together. And we wanted to let you in. We want you to hear, like, what do three naturopathic doctors in their late 30s / early 40s, like, what are they doing and what are they talking about? And so that's what we're going to get in today. So the way that we're going to set this up is we're going to do a kind of a rapid fire round of just telling you some of the things that we are tired of hearing, things that we are tired of having to say over and over again. And then we'll kind of start to pull the thread and go deeper on some of the things, depending on what comes up. And we don't know what each other is about to say. That is the fun of this conversation. We're going to let it flow where it needs to flow. So we're going to go Leigha, Michelle, and me, and we'll just go till we run out of things that we are tired of hearing. We might be here for a while. That's right. Leigha, start us off.
Yes, I have a cancellation policy, and yes, I actually enforce it.
Love it. Michelle.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're not offering feedback. We're just riffing. I love
just
this.
riffing for now. Okay, then we'll go.
Okay. That it's not okay for naturopathic doctors to have a sick day and it's going to take a couple of weeks to get back in.
Okay. I'm tired of women over the age of 35 being told or believing that every single thing that they are experiencing is perimenopause.
I'm tired of having and hearing that women with low iron are told it's actually not that bad and their fatigue is not caused by their iron that is bottoming out.
That you're actually in a caloric deficit and still gaining weight. I don't believe it.
Agreed. I'm going to go off that one. And that when women say that they've gained weight and nothing's changed, that's actually part of the problem, that nothing's changed.
That's a good one.
What I used to do is no longer working. Like that conversation where people will say, I used to be able to do this and see it change, and now I can't do the same thing that I did 10 or 20 years ago. It's like your body is not the same as it was 10 or 20 years ago.
This all sounds great, but I'm going to actually sign up next time.
Yes. Speaking of being slow to make decisions. Yes. Going off what Leigha said, the other thing I see is women who, I'm really tired of women feeling and believing that their sole purpose is to stay and be as productive as possible for as long as possible. Like, that's not why we're here on this planet.
Maybe your brain fog is because you're trying to do too much and you never take a break or eat your lunch while just eating your lunch.
But that's so boring, Leigha. It's so boring to eat lunch.
It is so boring.
I know.
Yes, but you can you can defend your excuses if you want to, but the consequences, you get to keep them. And they are in direct conflict with what you say that you want.
That's like, you can take action and complain, but you can't complain if you're not taking action.
Love it. Great summary. I'm tired of women who are angry and irritable, convinced that it is something that is wrong with them.
Ooh, because I was going to say, maybe you can't sleep next to the person that you're in bed with because you totally resent them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good one.
That basic and simple are boring. But it's basic and simple that actually get results.
100%. I'm tired of women who overfunction at home and in the office. So yesterday, my partner's toddler was at baseball, and one of the moms had to rush home because she was heading on a business trip, and she had to go prepare all the meals for her family while she was away. And that makes my head explode a lot.
I'm really tired of blanket statements in medicine, like you can't use hormone therapy, because rarely is anything ever that black and white.
I'm just going to say this because I'm just going to keep riffing because the other two are. But failing forward is a strategy. Just quitting is the only problem.
I like that.
I know. I wrote down rest, metabolism, productivity, and mindset.
Love it.
Where shall we begin? Let's go with mindset, because I do think that it is a big struggle for a lot of us, and many of our listeners, I think, relate to that. And what you were saying, Michelle, where we have this goal, we have this desire, whether it's weight loss, to go to bed on time, to have a better sex life, to have a better, like whatever the outcome is, it is so easy for us to get excited about the outcome. But what we don't realize is that we have to get excited about the journey that's going to bring us there, because you're going to spend the vast majority of your time in the journey and the outcome is never guaranteed. So if the only thing you're excited about is the journey, or is the outcome, you're going to have a really hard time. And as soon as there's a roadblock or things get hard, you're going to quit. So Leigha, you're both great at mindset. Like, what do you want to maybe share with women of conversations that you're having specifically around mindset?
I talk about the messy middle, and Michelle does a great job of that too. And Seth Godin wrote a book called The Dip. It's so short. You could read it in 2 hours, and we all love books. Michelle's got her nice rainbow book tower behind her there. And Sarah and I joke about becoming bibliotherapists. But the idea is, like, if you're going to get started with anything, there's always going to be a dip. At first, when you get started, it's always exciting. You have momentum. You can have extra resources or motivation to get going. The dopamine hits you to start something new. But then inevitably, it's going to feel hard, either from a time or an energy or an excitement or engagement or motivation perspective. But if we quit in that piece, all of our initial effort is wasted. And so you have to be tied to the journey, and you have to be tied to the outcome in a way that allows you to bring flexibility and flow. And this is where Michelle maybe can talk about like the masculine and feminine. But let's say if we use metabolism and weight loss as a goal, to your point, Sarah, it's never a guaranteed outcome. But if you are not excited and committed to the waking up and the redundancy of moving your body in some way and making a meal plan in some way and really dialing in and staying committed to those two pieces, we're never going to be able to get to a place where we feel good in our body, if that's what we want, right? And so though it's like having the flow and flexibility to make the journey your own, and having a desired outcome in mind, but not being totally attached to it so that you feel like you're failing on the way if it's not perfect, if it's not right, if it's not all or nothing. You're all in. And that's where I hear women say, like, I'm being good or I'm being bad. I'm on track or off track. And we're never going to reach success if that's how we apply feelings about our health behaviors.
Michelle, do you want to jump in?
I really do.
Okay.
I'm going to be so bold.
Do it.
Because I think this is, and I know you two would agree, but I think health really comes to, well, maybe not such a blanket statement because there's complexity in our brains, but this is my belief, that I think that it all comes down to self-worth and self-trust. And this is why I think community is important. And this is why I think mindset is essential to actually getting the results that we desire, is that yes, there is the messy middle. Yes, we need to reframe and create some containment with and embrace the boring of the healing process. And I really think that when, I felt very lackluster about my clinical practice before the Wild Collective. And I think it had a lot to do with that I was never getting to the root of why women were sabotaging all the time. And when I started putting women together and, the accountability and support started to really buffer the hard stuff. And when we really started to confront, the thought life that was going on, if we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day and 80% of them are negative, like what Leigha says, right? One day you say something's bad or it's off and then you abandon. I think it all comes down to not thinking you're worthy of having what you actually desire. And, we meet parts of ourselves like that all the time. And I think these are critical. And I feel I'm doing my patients a huge disservice by not confronting that and, really sitting in the discomfort of that. in order to get to where they want to go, which whatever that goal is. And like, we don't have control of the outcome, but can we learn to love ourselves through the journey? Can we learn to fall in love with the journey? Can we learn to lean on a collective to find the joy in the mundane, in the dip? Because we all know, like Leigha said, the dip is there. It has to be there. So can we do things, and can we sit with probably what's really going on behind the scenes is that we feel alone and that we don't actually feel worthy of having what we want. If it were as easy as, taking the supplement or following the strategy, we'd have a different level of, public health, but that's not where we're at. So there's something else here.
So Michelle, you work a lot specifically with metabolic health and weight loss, and I'm sure you see all kinds of different mindset blocks. So one of the things that you said earlier was when people are convinced that they are in a calorie deficit and that they're not losing weight, or the one that I said, like, nothing's changed and I'm gaining weight. How do we start to approach some of those conversations? How do you approach some of those conversations and belief to help women maybe reframe their mindset and see things differently?
I think data helps us, because I was one of those women. It's like, I'm doing everything right. What's going on? I'm intermittent fasting. I'm moving my body every day, like all the things. And then I did a reset myself. And within days, I was like, oh, whoa, there's, women will often tell me about licks, tastes, and bites. Like, so much of what we do, we're just totally unaware of, right? We're just patterning out. We talk about this, like the numb woman who's just going through the motions, right? And so she's eating the scraps because that's all she's prioritizing, or she's, it's just, data helps. And I've become someone, as a graduate of our program, and I've been told by recent graduates that it's very similar, right? That we're like, eat what you want. This is just a single statement from what I see. My sister was a holistic nutritionist. It was even more like, as long as it's healthy and organic, there's no problems. And so I wanted to believe that was true, but for someone like myself, that wasn't true. I really needed to understand, what was going on, because left to my own devices, if I measure peanut butter and yogurt with my heart, I'm over consuming. And so data helps me understand, it's like, what actually makes me feel satisfied and nourished versus the emotionality of it all, right? So for me, it's like data was the gateway to empowerment, not restriction. And I know there's a fine line of discernment there. But for me, it was like, once I actually started to understand and I had, data to evaluate, there was no denying what was actually going on. I was actually over consuming, or a lot of the eating I was doing was not totally conscious, right? Like we were all at an obesity conference together. And one of the things that stuck to me is like, we don't binge in the morning, right? So for a lot of us, it's like we let the emotions of the day, we've underfueled of the day, and then we go and sabotage, again, back to the self-worth piece, right? That our emotions are intertwined with nourishment. And I think when we actually start to put data to stuff, we can actually then be the scientist of our life and have some discernment of like, this is actually what is happening. This is what I'm saying is happening. This is what I would like my results to be. And this is what my results actually are. And when we actually can lay that out, we get to take the emotions out of this. And a huge part of the work that I'm trying to do is untether the emotions from certain factors that build health, because they can be mutually exclusive, and often they need to be, because when they get intertwined, that's when we make a whole story and we start to like really hook to the chaos of things versus, the discernment, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's delicate because for so many women, there's so much shame around body weight. There's shame around eating. There's shame around being too emotional. And so when you kind of push back and say, physiologically, it is impossible that you are in a calorie deficit and not losing weight, that, and I see Leigha like chomping at the bit. I will let you jump in a sec, I promise. You hit up against something really uncomfortable because, again, we have been taught that we're not supposed to eat too much and that we're supposed to look and feel a certain way. And when you are faced with facts, and I know this was my experience too. I was like, I eat really well. I'm not like binging or doing anything wild. But if I am gaining weight, all that means is that I'm consuming more calories than I burn. It's not that I'm a bad person. It's not that I'm a piggy or I don't need to create a whole story. It simply is a mathematical fact that I'm eating more calories than my body needs. And as soon as I do some weighing and tracking and figure out what that looks like, the weight does come off. And that's not that it's simple, but it kind of is in that sense, but we make it so complicated and we make it mean so much more.
Totally. This is like the body composition. I'm sorry, Leigha, I will stop. But like, this is when we look at InBody, we look at, women who maybe weigh the same or put on a few pounds, but they put on pounds of muscle and the body fat. It's like, there are certain metrics that are poor markers of health, full stop. And we need to, we don't want women to make meaning about that. And like what you said, like physiologically, some things, when we can create some clarity around it, it can be really empowering and encouraging. And I think lastly, what you were saying is it is simple. It's not always easy. And that's the reality. That's why we need each other. Because in the not easy, we need to say, this is not easy. Not someone else has to be like, I've been there before. And here's how I navigated that. And all of a sudden you feel less alone. You fill your cup with a different type of energy. And now you have maintained momentum from leveraging another resource. And I think that needs to be highlighted as a superpower for us, because left to our own devices, we are more than likely going to make a whole lot of meeting and sabotage. Yeah, sorry.
No apologies. I think that data is just very confronting for people, and it is incredibly valuable, and it is incredibly confronting for us because we are by nature emotional beings, and so many of us haven't learned how to navigate our emotions and process our emotions and deal with them and love them and let them pass through. And so this can be so subtle. I drop my kids off at school every morning, and I have this very clear memory last year at some point of watching I assume a grandmother drop off her granddaughter, and her granddaughter didn't want to go to school that day and was crying. And I heard the grandmother say to this little girl, "Stop crying. If you keep crying, I'm going to leave you here. I'm going to go." So I was like, boom, core wound right there. Like I just watched it happen. If you show emotion, I'm going to leave you. How does that little girl internal it? If I express emotion, I am going to be abandoned. Therefore, I am going to learn and cope and try to stuff my emotions down with something else that's probably going to be food, wine, social media, sex, alcohol, like whatever it is, maybe even exercise. Maybe it's the thing that you think is healthy. And you're going to stuff it down unless you actually know how to first acknowledge it and admit it to yourself and then alchemize it and do something with that. And it's a human experience. And I think we're just sold this lie of like, it's all supposed to be good. And if you're not feeling good, like something's wrong with you. It's like, what if there's something wrong with the environment that you're in? What if there's something wrong with the relationship? What if it's like this job is not meant for you and that's why you're so deeply unhappy in it, right? And so instead we internalize that all as, oh, there must be something wrong with me. And when women are given the data, I think it boils down to, or how this shows up for the women we work with, the beautiful, incredible women we work with, is that they so often say like, I know what I need to do, or I know what I should do. I just need to do it. Right? Like I'm tired of hearing that. Are you
yes.
not? right?
All the time.
So why do you know what you need to be doing and you just aren't doing it? Because you don't love or trust yourself enough into showing up relentlessly, wholeheartedly committed to yourself as much as you are committed to serving other people's needs. Like that is a belief that I hold, and it can be super confronting, and to turn everything on its head to be like, I can no longer survive in this internal emotional turmoil that is causing me to feel tired, exhausted, leaving me awake at night, leaving me to rely on something else that's sabotaging my health. I don't know about both of you, but like rarely do I have anything overly complicated to offer to patients. Like sometimes I'm like, am I doing my job right? Am I missing something? Like, am I supposed to be offering some kind of, I know you said, Michelle, like I'm very innovative, but you're right. Like it's not okay or normal for us to be sitting in front of a screen for 8 hours a day, not getting outside, not moving our bodies, not connecting with real people, and only connecting with people through a screen. And so when we have to unplug and untether from all of that, and if you're ready to move from like, I know what I need to do or should be doing to actually doing it, you have to be excited about the journey and about your success. And I think a lot of women, one who I'll just use it as example, I sat aside from her in a patient visit and I said, I actually think you are more afraid of your success than your failure, because you being successful is going to mean that people notice you. Mm-hmm. You're going to now be different. You're going to like exist in your life in a different way. And then that becomes confronting for other people. So like, of course we don't want to deal with like one, being confronted ourselves, and then two, having to deal with other people's shit being like kicked up from the things that we're doing. But it's hard either way. And that's where I think if you're going to do the hard, choose your hard and choose it consciously. And the hard is so much easier when you have community and when you have people and friendships or an intimate relationship or a group, like anything that you can do that keeps you connected and able to have conversations that just help you be like, this is how I'm actually feeling. Express that.
Yeah. We're on the same page, because I literally wrote down scared of the outcome. A lot of women are scared of the outcome, right? We've talked about this, whether it's the job or the weight loss, like you're going to potentially get more attention. People are going to be noticing more. And that feels deeply threatening for a lot of women, because we also like, of course we're scared. Look at how we treat women who have the audacity to do something bold. Women who are in politics, famous women, we tear them apart. So why in the hell would any of us want to be in that position when what we see is those women are being criticized left, right, and center?
I'll bring it back to the example of the little girl, right?
Yeah.
Like, think about that. If she changed how she was acting, was like, actually, this is really how I feel, and I just want to collapse in your arms and have a good cry right now. Yeah. She feels like she can't do that. And that's how we feel when we are then in a job or in a relationship or in a body that feels uncomfortable. We feel like we have to keep continuing the same.
And I think that's also why so many of us struggle with rest, because a lot of times when you actually are not distracted and you're not numbing and you're just sitting and actually resting, a lot of this shit gets kicked up. And so one of the reasons I think women are so obsessed with productivity is it's simply a way to keep us distracted from the stuff like, if I cry, if I actually show how I feel right now, my partner will have a negative response. Or if I cry at work, I'm going to be labeled whatever. So yeah, I think that is often why we keep ourselves in perpetual motion, because that feels easier, even though it's hard and it's burning us out. It feels easier than sitting there and being like, I want to cry, but I'm scared. And that feels like the sadness, the anger, like whatever comes up emotionally when we actually just relax, it feels really, really uncomfortable. So it's easier to just keep moving.
We're wired to conserve. And there was this really cool research that was done in UBC fairly recently. And it was like taking these two situations where you could either, like, it was all digital that people could guess, and it was either to sit on the couch or to exercise. And what they were looking at is like, how does the brain actually physiologically respond to these stimulus? And majority of people selected the exercise probably because they thought that was the right answer. But what they showed is that the brain, it actually took the brain more energy to like move to that versus sitting on the couch. We're wired to conserve. So when we are, even though like what you're saying is so true, it's so validating, right? Why do we stay in perpetual motion? Because in the moment, that feels easier than having to actually process the things. And if we are wired for conservation, and we are, we're never going to have the motivation, one, to work out, but two, to actually sit with what causes us great distress. And I said, Leigha, to my patient this past week too, that we're more terrified of our light than our darkness. And it is a really scary thing, especially if comments have been made about you in some capacity. You are so afraid to be seen in that way, to have someone comment. So you just continue to stuff and, in theory, conserve, even though it is an asinine amount of like motion women are in at any given time of the day, running from themselves, from feeling these big feelings. And one of the biggest aha moments for me in the last year was sitting in my Wild Collective, the first circle I sat in. And I've known this about us collectively as women, but to watch the profound apologies for having tears and emotions, like really grandiose statements of like, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. Like, why? This is the space and this is safe to do. And it's good that you're feeling your feelings for once, because we're creating this permission field for you to be able to do that. Yet here we are feeling so guilty that that's what's coming up. And it comes from, and I love that you said it, it's so nuanced. And this is why storytelling is medicine, because every one of us can relate to the story that Leigha shared, being that little girl. Who are you to cry? I'm going to leave you. I'm going to abandon you for having these emotions. And so, of course, it doesn't feel safe at 44. Why would it? 80 or whatever, I'm making up stats, but they're all very close to real stats. But, 80% also of our thoughts are repetitive. So if you've never sat with those thoughts, you've been thinking those thoughts since you were the 5-year-old. It's very real to us.
Well, and we believe them to be true.
100%.
We believe our thoughts to be true. We believe our feelings. Like, feelings are not facts. They're just feelings. And I think we would be a whole lot better off if we did just let ourselves feel whatever needed to be felt, and then didn't attach, like, again, this whole story. And yes, like, every woman, like, I always joke that I have Kleenex in my office because I make everybody cry, but literally every woman who cries, and that's the vast majority of women in my office, apologizes. Mm-hmm. And I find it like, yeah, why are you apologizing for, like, I'm like, you're going to cry, I'm going to cry. That's why there's Kleenex. Like, let's just normalize it. It's okay to feel, and it's okay to feel quote unquote negative emotions. Like, I'm fascinated with women's anger, and it makes women so deeply uncomfortable when we get angry. And we did a whole episode on anger that you can go back and listen to, but your anger is there. And I think Leigha said this earlier, like, it's not because there's something wrong with you. There is something wrong in the environment. There is something happening in your world, in your life, that doesn't work for you. It is not there because you're a bad person, a bad mom, a bad wife. It's not because your hormones are like, something just isn't working. And anger is there to point, again, an uncomfortable spotlight. If we never felt anger, we would never change anything, because anger feels so deeply uncomfortable because it's trying to get you to do something with it, not shove it back in so it can come shooting out next time you're PMSing. Like, it's there to help you in that moment. Mm-hmm.
Last year, as we've shared, I went through a massive episode of burnout and arguably or suspected depression, and literally cried for a whole weekend with you guys. And one of the things I so clearly remember is, like, sitting in that and being like, why am I feeling this way? This feels so hard. This is so awful. This is so painful. And I have this clear memory. I'm laughing because I can just like picture Michelle. We have this favorite popcorn. And I just like remember eating the popcorn as we're talking and saying like, everyone feels this way at some point. Everyone probably feels this way. It's just most people, it is too confronting and we turn to something else. And sometimes we need to do that. I always say with my patients, like sometimes you need an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety or a sleeping pill. Sometimes you need something that's going to allow the bridge to be laid out in front of you so you can get to the other side and have the capacity and coping skills and mechanisms to engage in the things that are going to help build you back up and help you feel like you can fully support your health and your life. And so one of the things I think if we focus on like, how can we help women feel their feelings, but then do something with it, because it can be really scary. If you're like, okay, I'm feeling, but now what do I do? I can't just be with this. I use the analogy of a toddler or a puppy. And so most people will be familiar with either of those. And when you're engaged in doing something, the vision I always have is like doing the dishes, and my son who's 3 always wanting something at that time, right? And come, mommy, mommy, mommy. And if I just ignore him, what happens? He escalates and he becomes more emotional, and it becomes increasingly difficult, time consuming and energy consuming to have to turn to him, de-escalate, address what he wants, and then go back to what I was doing. Whereas instead, if I just pause for a moment and say like, hey, bud, what's up? Okay, mommy's just doing the dishes. I'm going to be with you in a moment. So if that's helpful to think of, it's a really great way to think of how you can feel your feelings and acknowledge them and then move forward. So the analogy, or the acronym I use is CALM, which is like C for connect. Just literally connect with how you're feeling, because maybe in an interaction with someone, you're like, this doesn't feel right. There's a constriction or a sinking feeling or anxiety or discomfort or boredom. It's like, just connect with that sensation, because also, I don't know, the two of you probably see how many women are disconnected from their bodies. Like, how do you experience your anxiety, or what do you feel? And they're like, I don't know. When's your menstrual cycle? I don't know. I'm like, how can you not know when your menstrual cycle is coming?
They have to check an app. Like, apps are great, but that's like when I ask a woman how she sleeps, she doesn't answer. She opens up her thing, and I'm like, no. Like, how? Like, before you look at your app, just like give me the Coles notes of your experience. But yeah, we outsource so many of these like basic bodily functions that are so important and like tell us so much about what's happening with our health. And if we didn't have an app, like we'd be like, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, totally. So connect with how you're feeling, acknowledge it, and be like, I feel this. I see you. It's like saying to the toddler or puppy, like, hey, I see you. And just let there be space for a moment, because it's so incredible how if we just try to move on and distract ourselves, and if we're not clear and conscious on how that happens, it can be as simple as like you standing in line at the grocery store and having to pick up your phone. Like every idle moment in the day of reaching for your phone and needing something to entertain you or distract you. So it's amazing if we just give ourselves a space of like, that's interesting. I'm feeling that. And then ask, okay, what do I need to do to move forward with this? Like, what is this actually asking me? What might this feeling be telling me about how I don't feel fully aligned or excited or connected in this relationship, in this job, in this situation? And that's what gives you the answers. Like, that's the intuition, the body knowledge, the body literacy that we want women to bring. And you might need help from there, right? That might be like, okay, I'm feeling this anxiety or dissatisfaction or discomfort or maybe even disgust in my body, in my health experience. Like, I'm not feeling like myself. One, acknowledge that, because if you're just on autopilot and going on with your day, you're going to continue to live a life that is so unfulfilling and exhausting. And then if you just acknowledge it to yourself and say like, okay, now what do I need to do? Do I know how to gather the data on, like, this is the piece of like, I do feel like I'm trying everything to change my sleep or to work on my menstrual and hormone health and my weight loss plan. And I'm not seeing the results that I want. So that's where we need to say like, okay, I'm going to engage with someone who can help me. I'm going to ask for help, because Again, we struggle with that so much as women. And if we started there, I'm like, I'm just going to ask someone if they can help me out on this. I'm going to ask if they can help me understand, instead of it being, I need somebody else to tell me what to do because I don't know. It's like, you're infinitely wise and your body is infinitely wise. You just need to reconnect with it. And maybe somebody can help you do that and facilitate that. I think that's the role that we play and want to play. And one of our conversations, because we have so many, especially voice notes back and forth, but one of them that was relatively recent, I remember us all coming to this piece of like, it's such an important reminder for us to realize, like, we don't know what's best for our patients. We can guide them and we can suggest things and we can think, but only our patients know, only we know, only you know what's best for your body. Mm-hmm. And I think we could radically change our whole experience as women if we just put women in that position of power.
I mean, I knew this. I shouldn't say I had a feeling. This conversation went exactly where it needed to go, and I love it. And all I keep thinking here is like, health is so much more. I think Michelle said this earlier. Like, if you came here hoping to hear about our favorite supplements, sorry, not sorry. Because that is like a pinch. That is nothing.
The least interesting
thing. Yeah. This is where the real magic happens. And I hope that you are realizing, if you do not have women in your life where you can have these conversations, again, I would make that your number one priority. I don't know about you. I am not super interested in talking about kids' sports and the weather. I don't give a shit. I want to let's talk about what is your childhood wound? Who hurt you? Right. Let's hang out there. So if you ever run into me in real life and we're chatting, please feel free to let's go there. Okay. One last question for each of you. Leigha, if you were going to suggest one first step or one small thing to help women listening who want to fix their fatigue after the conversation today, what would that be?
Acknowledge what's exhausting you.
Great. Love it. Michelle?
Read Unbound.
Oh, yes. And
that's what came up.
I love it. It's perfect.
Tell us more.
What is Unbound in 30 seconds or less?
It's truly understanding power. So it's knowing a woman will be able to exercise power more effectively if she knows what she actually desires, which most of us don't. And then we know how to ask for it. And we start to accept and receive the collaborative support to bring our dreams to fruition, in essence.
My number one thing is make time for things that you want to do and not just things you have to do. I think for too many of us, our days are filled with have-tos, and then we wonder why we're grumpy and irritable and don't feel very fulfilled and we're tired.
Or we don't have a libido. Can we just highlight that of if your day is void of pleasure in every other way, at the end of the day, the last thing you are going to want to do is have sex.
100%. You're just going to want to eat the snack cupboard because that's way easier and instant gratification. Yeah.
Takes way less energy.
Yeah. 100%. We're conserving energy. Amazing. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I always love getting to spend time with these two incredible women. I will link to both of them in the show notes so that you can go and follow them. They both also have podcasts, which I forgot to put in my intro with Michelle. So we will link to their podcast as well. And we will see you back here next time. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for spending your precious time with me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love it if you would send it to a woman in your life who needs to hear it. And there's no better way to help me reach more women who want to fix their fatigue than to take 2 minutes to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. Ready to get more insight into what's making you tired? Find out which of the 5 most common types of fatigue you're dealing with by taking my fatigue fingerprint quiz at fatiguefixer.ca/quiz. Are you dealing with frazzled fatigue, where your body's exhausted but your brain won't shut up, making it hard for you to fall asleep? Or maybe you're more of the drained fatigue type, where no matter how much sleep you get, you're never rested, and struggle to get up in the morning. Just take my fatigue fingerprint quiz and your results will include a list of recommended labs you can ask your doctor for, as well as my top recommendations for which habits and practices are best for fixing your type of fatigue. Find the quiz at fatiguefixer.ca/quiz. Because being tired all the time isn't normal, and you deserve to have good energy. Last but not least, I want to thank Jen Hudson and Mike Trutler over at Story Studio Network for bringing these conversations to life. I'll see you right back here in 2 weeks. Bye!